Cool. So next step is we need to update a task when a task is completed. So when we click an item and change its completeness state, we want to also issue an update statement, which looks like this, to change the complete value of the task. And update statement is composed of an update keyword and then the name of the table you want to update, and then a list of these set statements where you set a certain column value to the new value that you want to change it to, and those are all comma delimited. And then there's an optional where statement where you say what sort of constraints you want to place on the update. And if you don't put that in there, then you should probably know what you're doing, because it will update every row in the table to whatever you're changing. So in most cases, you want a where clause. An example is I want to update the task table, set complete equals true, where ID equals 1. And if I skip the where ID equals 1, then I'll get some strange behavior. So the steps that we're going to go through are to implement a save task method on application that updates a task in the database. And then when the task is toggled on the list item click and view task activity, then we will call that save task method. So let's start with implementing save task. We'll put that here under add task. And I'm going to copy that in from my other code. Here we go. So save task will take a task, make sure it's not null, because it would be useless, and then we go through the exact same setup that we did before with the content values, which are basically, again, the key value pairs of column name to value. And the difference is, in this case, I need to get the ID off the task, and I'm going to format my where statement right here, which a where statement looks like column name equals value. And in this case, the string is the task ID column, which is just ID, and then the value is this long ID t, which I get off the t reference to the task that we're dealing with. So I'm passing in the task, get the ID, construct this where statement, and then issue the update statement, which takes these types of arguments. Let's look at the Java docs real quick. Okay, so the arguments takes the table name, content values, and then the where clause, and then where arguments. Actually, I'll just change that so you can see how these where arguments and where clauses work together. So whereas right here I created a where statement, so this is going to look like this when it turns into SQL, not what here's what mine's going to look like. ID equals like whatever 5, and then in SQL it will become a where statement like this, and then the whole thing will be something like this: update tasks set name equal new name. Needs a comma. Complete equals true, where ID equals 5. That's what the update statement is going to look like back in SQL land. And this where clause I'm creating right here and just passing that in. But I could also do this. Change this to a question mark. Drop off the ID. Now I have a where statement that looks like this. And this is you'll see this in a lot of different places that you use SQL and any other programming language. So what I've done now is I've created a placeholder which will be replaced positionally by the arguments that I put in an array here in this last argument to update. So then the where clause is going right in here, and then I need to put a new long array with ID in it. And it doesn't like that. What does it want instead? Oh, it wants a string. I see. It wants it as strings. So then I'll just add empty string to ID to fake it into being a string. So now, does everybody understand what I did here? So now this is using the SQL's interpolation, or like replacement. So this task ID is going to be a question mark in here, and then these arguments will be passed to the database and then put into composed into a SQL statement. So the reason this is done is to, without going into it too much, this is to protect against SQL injection attacks. And SQL injection is where you put in, let's say, I don't actually think this would work, but say I was tricky and I wanted to break the application, I could put in something like drop table tasks here, and then hoping that would get put into the SQL statement and actually run. And this SQL, back out of this. This SQL says drop the tasks table, like get rid of all that data in the tasks table, which is something as a developer I obviously don't want to happen. And I don't think this is going to happen a whole lot in Android apps. It happens, but you definitely need to protect against it on the web. But if you have any situation where you're going to be putting text from a user input into your database, you'll probably want to do something more like this, where you're allowing values to go through some sort of what's called a sanitization process first. But in this case, there's a lot of restrictions, and the ID is never, we don't allow the user to put in the ID ever, so it's not really that big of a deal. And they're already going to get interpolated out of this content values thing anyway, so only in this case where I'm composing the where clause do I need to worry about it, and I probably don't need to worry about it too much in this case anyway, but that's at least how it works. So once we get this working, I'll have any questions about that interpolation stuff with the question marks and whatnot. But so now that we have this save task working, we can get the code working, and then we'll take some questions. So what we want to do is when let's see, when a task is clicked, discard those changes. When a task is clicked, we're going to call this new save task guy, and that will happen inside of the view task activity. So I'm going to open that up. I'll go from the package explorer inside the task manager package view task activity, and now on list item clicked, I call out to the adapter and I say toggle the task completed at the position that it's completed, at the one that was clicked. And here is a perfect time to get that task and pass that into save task. So someone last week was asking why I wouldn't want to just toggle the checkbox inside the view instead of popping up here to the activity to do that. And here's the answer to that question. We want to do that here because the view should not be responsible for persisting the task. We want the activity to be responsible for at least figuring out where that should happen. So this is a good example of why I care about this on list item click instead of doing any of that work down at the view level. So I'm going to import the task here. And now I have a task which I get out of the adapter by calling get item at the position that was passed in, and then I call app save task. And with any luck, this code should run just fine. So once the code gets deployed, or the app gets deployed, start it over. Now I can say get milk is complete, and if I back out of here, hit the menu, applications. I'm going through it this way again, even though DDMS is faster, so everybody can see where you can do this on your own apps. Force stop. Well, I don't need to back out of this, I guess. I just hold this down, Task Manager, come back here. It's booting up from scratch, and it is now complete. So now we've saved the state of the completeness in the database.